from a demographic point of view, you talked about the 2008, the real estate market. I think structurally, there's a nice little put at the bottom of this real estate market for someone like Redfin in this entry-level home buyer market. If you look out over the past 20, 30 years, the long-term median age of a first-time home buyer has been 32 years old. Millennials, the average age of a millennial right now is 30 and a half. So they're reaching that part of their life where if you want to have children and raise them in a home, it's put up or shut up time. And when you're a first time home buyer, you are particularly price conscious, more so than almost anyone else in the market. And in a scenario like that, as I said earlier on the show, those couple percent that amounts to thousands of dollars can really be a driving force for you as someone who is 26 years old of that generation. I'm much more comfortable with, finding things online, taking care of things myself to get that lower price, which is what Redfin offers. So I think, the offering for a buyer really makes a ton of sense. The offering for a broker really makes a ton of sense. It's in an industry that appears ripe for disruption. That high commission level is an opportunity. Your margin is my opportunity. That's an opportunity for Redfin. The demographics line up for them. I see really a lot to like with this business. Obviously, I own the stock, so I'm talking my own book. But Tim, just a big takeaway when you look at this company moving forward. I mean, is there anything that's going to disrupt this? That's going to break this story? It appears they've got a lot of runway ahead of them. Obviously, they're going to be antagonistic to brokers. We'll see how that happens, but the opportunity looks very large.
It is very large, and frankly, the biggest risk there are two big risks. The first is that they get too greedy. They take on too much with Redfin now, and what has been a group of very careful capital allocators gets themselves into balance sheet trouble, and they have inventory they can't turn, and then they start, hitting write-downs, and then it becomes very hard to recover from that. This is why, home builders tend to be very careful. They tend to buy land. And so when things get wonky, they really take some pretty hard hits. NVR is one of the only that does not do that. I think Redfin is careful enough to avoid that risk, but you don't know. And then, of course, there are some heavyweights. Zillow is also in this market. Zillow does not have the same level of do everything for you that Redfin does. They still contract out brokers. You buy your leads from Zillow if you are a traditional realtor. So it's interesting. Having said that, they're moving very aggressively into the instant buying space. Zillow Offers is a real threat. And we have here at the Fool, I told you about Austin. We did a small experiment here in which we looked at 3 different types of brokers to make an offer on his house. So Zillow came in at the top and called him and was very hands-on and asking questions about improvements. Then there was Open Door, which is a startup that's very tech-driven. Almost exclusively tech-driven, and came in with the lowest offer. There was no call. It was just like assumed that there were no improvements on his house whatsoever. And then right in the middle was Redfin. There was a little bit of touch, not as much high touch as Zillow, but the data was very solid. And Zillow would have been the one that won the business just in terms of like price. But as is typical, Redfin came in with a pretty conservative but reasonable bid right there in the middle. That's kind of the way they operate. Mm-hmm. So they do have some competition, and that's not going anywhere. But I think that Redfin is pretty well positioned, and it's going to take Zillow some time to build out the rest of that ecosystem that Redfin already has, and then decide whether or not they really want to go whole hog and build their own army of brokers that Redfin's already got. I don't think they're going to go there because right now they're using the fees that they get from brokers in order to build this other area of their business. So it's a little bit of, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. You don't want to totally disrupt everything at once, but they need to disrupt things. So Zillow's a threat, but I like where Redfin is positioned.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. Zillow seems to be kind of on the other side of that market from Redfin, whereas Zillow, if you're a real estate broker and you don't have a relationship with Zillow, you're going to have a really hard time getting leads. So they provide the tools that allow the existing real estate brokerage industry to really flow and just have the leads flowing. Whereas Redfin is really disrupting the real estate industry at its core, changing the way that it services customers. Zillow has struggled more, as you mentioned, to move into parallel industries, whereas that has been a core aspect of Redfin's strategy from the very beginning. Yeah, I think that this is a company that I really like. I think it's sold off since the announcement of Redfin Direct. There's been concerns about their antagonistic stance with the brokerage industry. I think this is a buying opportunity for the company. I don't think it added any more risk than the company already had. They're doing this in a very purposeful, strategic way that even if it's a total flop, the business can still continue and maintain its momentum. Before we go away, I want to read one kind of quote from the CEO that I think is indicative of this company and its culture. He said at the end of the most recent earnings call, he said, "The winner in our industry will have a culture of service and financial discipline. That culture depends on 1,000 friendships between agents, engineers, and lenders, on love disguised as hard work and hard work disguised as love. What's so strange about our society today is that we believe there's more magic in a company's technology than the people using that technology or in the way those people treat one another. Redfin believes in technology, but technology on its own is just a glorified toaster oven. Our culture is our deepest source of competitive advantage. It's why we are more sure than we've ever been that we can win." And I think that stands to, Redfin is leveraging technology, but also having that high touch, high service relationship that people look for. I think the opportunity is big for them. I think they're well managed, and I think investors should look at shares of this company as something to invest in for the long term. Any last thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, and I just want to say, that is very consistent. That's a great quote. That is very indicative of Glenn Kelman. And I think, and you can read, he does a lot of interviews. He blogs at Redfin. That's Kelman. He is very sincere. He is in it to win it. This is the company I think he wants to retire with. This is it. This is his final act. He didn't need the money when he joined Redfin. He still doesn't need the money. He's doing this because he believes in it. And that's the best place to be. But something he said at the time of Redfin's IPO, I think you may want to go back if you're an investor and read this. It's super interesting. What he said was that he likened Redfin to Amazon in two ways. One was that they wouldn't be afraid to disrupt the industry. And then second, that they would roll up and create efficiencies that, were needed in this industry. And he was talking about this back at the IPO because you knew that they'd been cooking this strategy for a while. They've been cooking this strategy, what we're seeing now, for a very long time. So this is consistency of vision. It's ambition. It is, a very heartfelt, they see this as a big mission. And when you have a mission-driven company with a little bit of an edge, it can go a really long way. So I'm a pretty happy shareholder too, Nick. I like this one for the very long term. It's a rule breaker.
Yeah, you combine all that with an industry that just the opportunities seem obvious for someone to come in and disrupt, and they're doing it.